Collective Awakening podcast,
sharing truth and knowledge in this time of conscious awakening
with Chris and Stephen. Hello friends, and welcome to the Collective Awakening podcast. Chris and Stephen here, and we welcome you to another episode, and we welcome another wonderful guest. We'll be talking all things crystals on this episode, which I think it's been quite a while since we've done an episode that touches on crystals. I'd like to introduce Jackie Winters, who we met actually through a local Mind, Body and Spirit event. We had some wonderful chats with Jackie, and through that connection and meeting, we thought, wow, what a wonderful podcast that would be. So, Jackie, it's lovely to welcome you. And maybe we could start with a bit of the introduction of what you actually do as well. So, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Stephen, for inviting me. I'm really, really honoured to be on your show. I have actually been to the Purple Mountain and absolutely love what you guys are doing. Absolutely love it. So, yeah, okay, so what do I do? It's funny, really, because before we came on air, we were just saying how not to label ourselves and box ourselves in. But basically, my journey started with crystals because of health issues, which I don't really want to go into too much because everybody has their own awakening. But crystals started to inspire me and change my internal dialogue. So when I started studying crystals, I realized that, crystals were used in radio stations originally. The very first radio station was a crystal called Crystal Set, and it's because it had the crystals in there. So crystals changed the way I think, changed the way I feel, and then helped me to explore me. So I not only do crystals, I am an advocate for shamanism. I do practice shamanism, although I don't see shamanism as a religion, more of a person who can hear the earth. So it's not really a religion. I do retreats. I wrote, believe it or not, when I was at school, I was like many people, sort of disheartened by the disencouragement that the teachers give you and tell you, you'll not make anything of yourself, etc., etc. And I went on to write a university accredited course because I felt so passionate about crystal healing and wanted to bring it into mainstream. So in 2004, I sat down and listened to what the crystals were saying, which might sound strange to some of you, but I know you're all energetically open-minded. So we'll just continue with that the crystals told me how to record and put together a course to help bring crystal healing into mainstream. So back in 2004, out of the blue, a lady came on one of my courses and she said, where do you see yourself going with all this? And I said, well, I'd like to open an academy. I'd like to write a course and what have you. She said, oh, that's strange. She said, I actually write courses for universities. So I had the know-how and she had the way of presenting it to a university to get it accredited. And between the two of us, we wrote a university accredited course back in 2004 and started bringing crystals more into mainstream. So that was 20 years ago, but my journey with crystals actually started in my 20s and I'm in my 60s now. So I've been working with crystals for 40 years. So it's a long time. So yeah, to actually say, in a shortened sentence, what I do, it's probably teaching crystals to diploma level, introducing people to crystal energy, which is about developing your intuition, getting to know yourself, finding inner harmony, relaxing into who you are, becoming what's known as a hollow bone. I don't know whether you've heard that terminology before, where you're, becoming the observer of what life brings to you and what happens within you. And also taking time out, going on to retreats. So yeah, I'm so sorry. That's a long version of basically what I was, what I do.
No, we don't mind. We don't mind whatsoever. And the reason I asked that really all our guests now is because we don't like to put that one label or one word. Some things take a little bit more of an explanation. They're very broad. And I love actually what you've said there, what you dropped in about crystals. And I don't know if people do view them in some way being a modern thing, but how they are entwined in our history very strongly. Going back to ancient times and even beyond there, further than probably we know, or certainly what's written. But what really interests me and intrigued me is when you did say about that communication with crystals. And I know that's been mentioned before. Actually, as you were talking, I felt like a kid in a sweet shop. I thought, where are we going to start? There's a few things I'd like to ask about. But that's what really pulled me, first of all. Now, what was the moment when you found you could, if you want to say, you could tune into that energy and feel that communication? When was that moment that began?
Okay, so it's actually a story I tell my students, because what happened at the time, my life was very hectic. I was running a business, a hotel. I had asthma. I had all sorts going on physically, and my life was 100 miles an hour. And this lady had given me a piece of blue lace agate, and she told me this would help with my asthma. And I remember thinking at the time, what a strange thing to do. But I carried this blue lace agate with me for quite some time, and it started to help me get better. And I'm like, well, is this the placebo effect that I'm carrying this? And she's told me, but to be honest, I didn't really care. I was starting to get better, and that was the main thing. So I embarked on a course. I went on a course back in the late 80s, 1980s. I went on a course, and I sat there on this course once a month, going away from the hotel that I was running, and I never felt a thing. Never heard a thing, nothing. But I just was getting out of the hotel, so it was giving me some time away from work. And I'm holding this crystal, going, "No, sorry, I can't feel anything." I just couldn't feel anything at all. And then one time we went, the lady handed out malachite, and I was holding the malachite. Oh my goodness me. And as I'm holding the malachite, everybody every week had been saying, oh, I can feel this and I can feel that. And I'm quite authentic. If I can't feel anything, I'll say, I can't feel anything. And I'm sat there thinking I must be absolutely rubbish at this, because I can't feel anything at all. And then holding this malachite, I can hardly contain my excitement. I'm like, oh my God, I can really feel this. I could feel like tingling sensations traveling up my arm and going into my chest. And then my chest started pounding and my heart started going racing. I'm like, holy shit, what's going on? Excuse my French. But I was really, really excited that I could feel it, but also a little bit, nervous of it. I'm like, what on earth is this? And because we were in a meditation group, we weren't allowed to speak, which is, I'm one of these who's quite verbal. I like to chat a lot. And if something exciting is happening like that, I've got to share it. I've got to share it. But I couldn't share it because we were all really quiet. So inside, I asked, what on earth is happening? And that's when it happened. I felt a knowing. So it's not actually words. I knew what was happening, but I had to ask. And that's the key, I think. I had to ask me what was going on, instead of just going, oh, I can feel this, this, and this, and getting really excited and sort of missing the moment. I literally said internally, oh my God, I can really feel this. What's going on? And then I just knew. I knew it was the energy of the crystal. I knew that it was affecting my heart. I knew that it was opening my chest. I knew where it was going in my body. I knew it was affecting my neurological system. And all these like knowings came in almost really, really fast. And I've since realized that it's light that's entering into your neurological system and bringing all this wisdom and this knowledge beyond words that give you. And so sometimes when I'm talking to the crystals, I have to sit down and take my time to change the knowings into words. And sometimes some of the words don't, there is no words to explain the knowings, if that makes sense. So I know, but I can't tell you what I know, because I actually don't know what I know, if that makes sense, which is crackers, I know. But I started having these knowings. And so after working with malachite, I became really aware of authenticity. And malachite, I believe, wakes up the authenticity within you and the recognition of authenticity within other people. So when you meet somebody, I don't like to use bad words about anybody, because, I try to see love and feel love for everybody because it benefits me. and the world. But there are some people that are not authentic. In fact, there's quite a lot of people that are not authentic. And I also began to realize that this non-authenticity doesn't just exist in what I call the world of the muggles. That's the people that haven't woken up yet, but also in this so-called spiritual world that we're living in. There's a lot of people that are, they're reading from a book and then they're going, oh, this is the way you do it. Well, for me, I think it has to be authentic. It has to be, I feel this, I sense this, and this is who I am. And you might feel and sense something totally different, but that's who you are. And that, in my opinion, is being authentic. When I take the control away from anybody and disempower somebody by saying, I know better than you do, that's not nice and it's not authentic. So Malachite woke up that authenticity within me. And from there, I started sitting down and talking to the crystals and having all these knowings coming through. And I started to verbalize them. And I wrote a deck of cards called Messages from Mother Earth, because that's what I felt they were, the messages coming through from the earth, through the crystals within me. And I also make sure that people understand that, that this is just how it affected me. It's not necessarily going to be the way that it affects you. And I think that my authenticity came through so quickly from Malachite that it helped me change the way I see the world. It helped me change me and become more fluid and allow me to be me and allow you to be you.
Amazing, absolutely amazing, and we love that, because there does seem to be a lot going on in the spiritual community, and I think being authentic now more than ever is so important, and being your true self, and the good, the bad, and the ugly, the warts and all, just be you. And something that we try to teach at the Purple Mountain is the importance of observing, going within, finding those answers within yourself, tapping into that beautiful divine light energy that's within all of us, in which we are all connected. But I like to ask you, it's sort of a great, anybody listening to this amazing podcast about crystals, and as you're talking, I could sort of imagine, crystals being little keys, and it's a malachite, it's a crystal, and actually lapis lazuli was a crystal that really opened that third eye, and clear quartz. So really, I don't know if you agree with that, Jackie. They are like little keys, and when you tap into this powerful earth and spiritual healing energy, it opens up little keys, little doors within us, and it's just absolutely amazing. But I'd like to ask you, just go back to what you were talking about, your courses and stuff, because I find that absolutely amazing. And I'm a massive advocate of, sharing this amazing knowledge around the world. But what about with children? Because me and Chris ran a little crystal shop on Fleetwood Market for nearly 10 years. And the amount of children that sort of knew crystals more than we did, and they're just coming in this vibration, don't they? Have you found that with a lot of children? Because there'll be a lot of parents listening to this, and they don't understand the children, and they're like, yeah, I know this, and they pick it up, and the knowledge that these children have on crystals is absolutely amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm actually doing a crystal workshop with children on the 21st of April. So when I wrote a children's book quite a while ago, and it was called The Chakra Gang, and it was Amy Amethyst, Bluey the Agate, Rosie Quartz, and they were a little gang of crystals, and I ran some workshops with children there, and it was so precious because a lot of the children don't have the mental blocks that us adults have. So when they hold a crystal, and I explained about the inner world and the outer world, and how the universe responds to the inner world, it's like the crystals talk to you. And there was one young boy in the class, he would have been 8, and he was being bullied at school. And his mum had already told me about this, but not mention it in front of Jake. And he was sitting there, and I gave him particularly a red jasper, because I thought garnet is the normal crystal that I'd go to for bullying, but for me, but for For Jake, I felt like red jasper would be great. It would help him feel more solid and more secure within himself, and help him feel more comfortable. So I gave him this, and I did a little mini meditation with this, and he's holding this crystal in his hand like it's, something really, really precious, which I loved to start off with, which was showing me that, he had this heart connection with the crystal. And at the end of the session, when we'd done the meditation, he said, when I was holding this crystal, it told me that I haven't to be frightened of these boys anymore at school, and that it's okay for them to be like that, but it's going to help me. So I said, well, you can keep that crystal. And he had about a 5-minute conversation about what this crystal had said to him. The little girl sitting next to him, she'd got a blue lace agate, and she sat there listening, fully engrossed in Jake's story. And she turned around and she said, I think I want that crystal because this crystal didn't say a lot. Oh, I was laughing my socks off, because the innocence of children, it's
Yeah.
just authenticity, isn't it, Stephen? They just sit
Yeah.
there, and they just, they don't have the blocks, and so they're just really, really authentic. And so for me, I think anybody who is into crystals, and you have children, I've got grandchildren, and I brought them up to help them recognize the voice of the universe, and that Mother Earth is love, and the importance of carrying love in our body being the vessel. And if we get angry or anything like that, it's not a bad thing. It's just, okay, we're falling out of love here. So we need to reassess what's going on, and we need to find out what it is that we need. And the crystals will help us go in our inner world. And when we find it in our inner world, then the outside world just reflects it, and it all becomes okay. And a lot of the children, that I've been on the workshops and what have you, I wished I had that knowledge at that age,
Yeah.
because I think, our lives would have been so different, wouldn't they, if we'd have known and understood all this from being young. And a lot of them are coming through, we don't have to apologize for, saying that a crystal has a vibration, and they can feel it. They know it. They understand it. And it's like, yes, future generations, here we come. So yeah, it's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And I think what was really interesting when you were talking about before, it's we are moving away, I feel, sort of in the world, in this great awakening and bringing in this new golden era. We're moving away from illusions and distortions, and we're moving into a time of pure love. And we are coming down to do this work to clear this energy, but it's all about perceptions, the way people perceive things, and we just got to be the best version of ourselves in this world as well. But I find as well that we are moving away from what we call belief systems, aren't we? We move, which often belief systems are programming and conditioning of the matrix of this very heavy energy. And actually the knowing is really the I am power, isn't it? It's the truth. And again, I'm struggling to compute it, because it's beyond words are such a waste of our energy. And it's interesting, dancing, hand movement, crystals is a language in itself that is beyond human words. I feel. What do you think of that?
Absolutely, 100%. One of the knowings that I like to work with tektites quite a lot, which have no internal structure. So it really helps to open your mind and transcend the words. And the knowings that I get when I give structure. But we do need structure living in the third dimension. But if you want to know the truth, you need to transcend that energy and realize that I base my practice, for me, on 3 shamanic principles, which is to recognize the impermanence of everything, to be able to let life change, that everything's impermanent, everything is evolving, everything is moving. I like to live by, finding inner security instead of placing my security in a job, a person, whatever. To know that as long as I can hold my vibration within my heart, life can change and I still feel secure. So if I lost my job, then I'm not placing my security in the job. I'm placing my security in my heart, knowing that my heart will then align me to whatever the universe wants next for me. And then I feel more together and whole. I'm not relying on this crumbling external world. And it is crumbling. It's all falling to pieces at the moment, which we can see. And the other one is to love unconditionally. And that I find so sometimes is very difficult, because hopefully, because that's it, I sometimes find family for me a little bit more difficult, because if we get hurt by family, and you really have a strong love bond, it's really difficult to love somebody unconditionally sometimes, to find that forgiveness and to find that love back in your heart. So yeah, forgiveness, living in the vibration of unconditional love for, the world. A lot of people are mad at the world because of what's happening in the world at the moment, and these regimes, and being told what to do. Well, really, you need to take control of yourself. If the government isn't doing it, well, then you do it. Make these communities that you and Chris are doing, bring together the community that you want to live in, rather than sitting there and moaning that they're not looking after you. You look after you. You get your community, you find your tribe, and let's all of us get together and create the life and the community, in a fair system that we feel is appropriate for us, instead of relying on them to do it for us. So yeah, I do feel working with tectites for me expands my mind to be able to see the bigger picture, not to get mad at the politicians who are doing X, Y, and Z and creating inside of me maybe an emotional turmoil because of what's happening in the external world, is to go within. I care so much for this world that I don't get angry at it. I don't find the media and everything like that as being truthful. So I now can recognize what's authentic and what isn't. And most of the time I don't even watch or listen to the news, because it is very difficult to decipher truth in those kind of worlds. And like you, Stephen, I think we're in a world now where more and more of us are waking up, more and more of us are addressing our authentic self and recognizing, and I feel so passionate about this, I want to say, the bullshit that's out there, and basically bringing it back to realize that if we want to make a difference in the world, then we need to make that difference in our world. And then if you make a difference in your world and they make a difference in your world, eventually the ripple will ripple out, and all of that crumbling that's happening in the world at the moment will just dissolve.
Yeah, I think that's very inspirational. And a friend of mine used to always use the song Man in the Mirror as a really good example. It's very easy to look out in the world and look at like, oh, we're victims, and put ourselves in that position. And even certain terminologies we use, like it's getting on my nerves, that's actually what you're allowing it to do. You're allowing it to be absorbed into the nervous system and cause you problems. And I think you hit it on the head for me with authentic and not authentic. And that's a good way to, I feel that's very authentic, and I feel that isn't. And what is nourishing, and something that I'm trying to learn at the minute, every day I'm trying to bring this in, is stay in your lane. Trying to stay in your lane, not falling into trying to rescue, which I found very toxic, the rescue side of things. We're here. For me, you've got to save yourself before you can even begin to think about helping somebody else. And that's the best service you can do.
Absolutely. And for me, with crystal healing, my job as, a guide is to offer my authentic self out there for you to decide whether or not it's advantageous or non-advantageous to you. It's not a case of, and I learned this I'm not going to name my tutor. When I started in the 80s, the lady that taught me, because I traveled quite a long way to go to this lady's classes. And I remember sitting there in the class once this knowing had opened up from Malachi, and thinking to myself, no, you're not right. No, that's not right. No, that's not right. So what I learned was what was not right. And then I became so passionate about being able to put it right. And when I say right and wrong, there is no right and wrong. It was actually right that she was doing that, because she was helping me recognize what was authentic and what was not authentic. So when she was saying, you don't do it like that with a crystal, you only use a crystal this way. Well, excuse me, but no, you don't. You use a crystal in the way your intuition is guiding you to use it. And, as long as you are feeling it, sensing it. So my job is to help you get that connection with a crystal, not to tell you what to do with it, is to help you find that intuition within you, to use my techniques till your intuition kicks in. And when your intuition kicks in, then you become the master of your own destiny, and the crystal is talking to you. I am not a master at anything. I'm a master of me. Well, I'm not even a master of me, to be honest with you. I'm still the authentic me. I still make, all sorts of decisions that aren't always conducive to my best life in front of me. But that is the key, isn't it? It's about allowing you to be you, allowing others to be others, and not trying to control people. And I think that's why the Academy has done well, was when I unlocked, like Stephen was saying, the crystals unlock things within you. They are like little keys. And when the Malachite unlocked my authentic self, it was the best gift it ever gave me. It really is. And to go on to be a crystal healer, if you go through the academy with us and, at the end of it, you want to become a crystal healer, then that's great. Use your crystals in whatever way brings you the most joy. There's no wrong or right with this, but don't limit yourself to just one thing. Allow yourself to get creative with who you are and what it is that you do. It's only an aspect of it. So yeah, I'm totally with you guys on on this.
Wonderful.
I like, sorry, can I just chip in there really quick?
Sure.
Because it really resonated. You don't speak to many people that sort of are on that same wavelength of vibration of thinking and feeling, because it's something that me and Chris have been very passionate about, the teaching side of, there is a very fine line. You have to be very careful as a teacher never to imprint your way or project your way to that student. What you want to hold space for, because the teacher teaches you nothing but only illuminates the pathway of learning. You're creating that space for that person to awaken, because that person might have way more knowledge than I do or you do, and it's just creating that space. And I was teaching that in the sound healing and massage. Oh, I want to be like you. No, you're not going to be like me. I want you to be your authentic self. You're working with energy and vibration. It's not a routine. I'll show you a way to do sound healing, but I want you to work the way you need to work, or the way you vibrate. And people struggle with that because it's a limiting belief system, that it's a logical mind setting, limited belief system. I'm going to be like that. But no, you be your authentic self. And we slowly, people that are ready to take that real step of sort of self-belief and self-worth and authentic self, really step into that realm of, thank you, I've taught what I've needed. And there will be a time, I say to people, my students, there'll be a time where I'm going to come to you and you're going to inspire me with your knowledge and your teachings. How amazing is that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, Stephen, I'm older than you guys. So when I went to school, we were taught, rigidly. And I went to a disciplined grammar school, and, you weren't allowed to do anything unless you were told to do it. And no, you've done it wrong. You should have done it this way. And no, you've done this wrong. And to a degree, that's still in the schooling system now, because I know, some of the children that are coming home, they're working out mathematical problems. And if they're not following the criteria to achieve the results that they want, then they're being told off. So we, as human beings in the Western society, we are very regimented. So to get a student to come to you and not tell them what to do, it's foreign to them. They don't know how to be independent and authentic. So really what me and you are teaching is to help them find their own intuition by following you in the beginning, but learning to become themselves, like you just said. And that's so precious. And if we can start doing that with children as they grow up, can you imagine what an incredible society we'll have? So yeah, with you on that one.
Amazing. And I love the way we've sort of come back, because I feel that what was spoke about in with the children on this podcast is so important, especially for any parents listening out there. And we did see it so many times, and you mentioned it there, Jackie. The crystals called to you, and we had the same like a setup in our shop where we had all the little tags, and people would come in and ask. And after about we gained a bit of experience, I actually used to say, just have a look and see which ones you're drawn to first, and then if you've got any questions, come after that. But sort of what I want to talk about there is, when we talk about the children, is I feel so many of them, they've come back to teach us so much as well now. And do you feel that's where, because there's a lot of misunderstanding, I feel, with children at the moment, and sort of labels that get placed on, in the education system and things. And I don't, it's the system that doesn't understand the children, what they're bringing in. That's what I feel. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
I absolutely agree with it. And I think the pressure that's being put on, because I used to teach in the colleges. Once I got my course accredited, I was invited into Lancaster University, quite a few places, to bring crystal healing in as an option. And, so getting in there and knowing the criteria that the teachers have to follow, we used to have to do individual learning plans, ILPs, session plans. There is everything was taken away from the teacher's ability to be creative with the class, because it was all geared to, are we reaching the targets? Are we getting the numbers through? Are they doing this? And the pressure that is exerted on the teachers, that before they get to actually work with the children or the students, in my personal opinion, was extraordinarily, ridiculous. So the creativity was going out of the window. And like you just said, the expectation, with the children and what have you, it's still, it's not being addressed by the system. But that goes back to what we were saying before. My grandson is 10, he's doing SATs at the moment, and he's come home from school, and my daughter, she thinks very much like I do, and it's a case of, right, let's sit down. What is it you love doing? You love doing that. Well, let's just focus on that. Don't worry about the rest of it. The rest of it will just fall into place. And I think with parents that are kind and nurturing and encouraging the children to pursue what they enjoy doing, and not have the pressure of having to achieve and be regimented into something that they're not enjoying, and not enjoying school, coming home with all those pressures. Mental illness in children, I've been part of a program called It's Mental, and it's mainly geared at children, because they can't take the pressure that these adults are putting on them. And you really want to shake them and say, wake up, for Christ's sake, what are you doing to these children? However, crystals can help, so we talk about like chrysocolla, which helps alleviate, that I have to mentality to relax the pressure. Citrine helps them focus, because sometimes they've got so many things that they need to be focused on, they can't actually streamline their focus. So there's lots of ways that crystals can help with children, and we do address a lot of this. And if we've got the time, I don't mind sharing some more, and maybe you've got some insights as well, because I know you guys work with crystals. For anybody out there who has got children that are going through SATs at the moment, or feel that they are under a lot of mental pressure, which really is ridiculous in this day and age. Surely we've got past all that.
Yeah, what I'd want to ask actually is, well, we're sort of talking about specific crystals in terms of a lot of children also very drawn to like connect with the earth more as well, which I feel is very, very important, of not being taking in that certain technologies have their place, but it can be very overwhelming and oversensitizing, I feel. So what crystals would be good in terms of with anybody really, not just children, but adults who want to connect with the earth, want to ground themselves?
Oh, now you've opened a door, haven't you? There's lots of crystals that can do that. So depending on which way you're not grounded, if it's mentally that you're not grounded, because you're overthinking all the time, I like to work with sodalite, because sodalite has that vibrational frequency that soothes the mind and, brings in them theta and beta waves instead of being in those really high, all energetic energy. So sodalite is great. I use that to help people ground their mind energy. If emotionally they are, congested with emotions because they've had a lot going on, then maybe I'd go for something like amber. Amber is really stabilizing. It's tree resin, so it's sticky and it helps stick you back together. Really, really good for people who might have lost parts of themselves. We lose ourselves in business, don't we? We lose ourselves in other people. We lose ourselves in life. And amber just helps you pull yourself back and, find yourself and just, anchor your energies more in the moment where you are. If, for instance, physically you need to slow down and ground yourself, there's jade, petrified wood, smoky quartz, then, bogie stones. If you're really, really ungrounded, bogie stones are amazing. I like to work with nantan, which is it's a unique tektite that's been found that's a mixture of nickel and iron, which is never found in combination together. Nantan is a meteorite and it's so heavy, the energy it has you here now, and it's very, very fast acting. So I would sort of work out where the person is, if it's mental, that they need to bring their grounding back down, if it's emotional, or if it's physical, then and something for everything would, in my personal opinion, would be Petersite. Petersite is amazing to combine the mind, the body, and the emotions together to bring everything back into alignment. And then, of course, you've got peacock cord. The list is endless. There's quite a lot. And you guys may have a totally different approach to it than I've got, but those are probably the ones that I'd choose.
I think it's the same with I'm big on like herbal medicine, and I speak to other herbalists and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And there's things that I don't know. And it's great because at the end of the day, a part of everybody's divine purpose, you're going to work a very unique way, the way that you work. I mean, when you look at crystals and herbs, there's thousands. There's beyond. And when I first started, I wanted to work with every crystal, and that's your passion, that's your desire, and you can't, and like you said, particularly as a crystal healer or somebody that works with crystals, your crystals change. And I found that over the years with me as well, crystals come into my life, and then there's crystals I've not worked with for a long time, because you're altering your frequency, and there's different type of work, different types of clients that you're working with, different types of healing. And I think I like that, the consultation side. You can, you have a consultation with that client, seeing what their needs are, their emotional, physical needs, and you look at your crystal collection just like a herbalist. You pick your little herbs, and same with crystals. But another thing that we've done, Jackie, which is probably something that people don't talk a lot of, is that we combine crystals with drinking water. We use clear quartz, and we use what was that other crystal called? That black crystal, Chris?
Shungite.
Shungite, yeah. And we use that. And is there other tips that you can give people about combining crystals with drinking water?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Shungite, I had to write, well, I didn't have to, but I was invited to write a article for a magazine in America on Shungite. And I learned all about buckyballs and fullerenes, which I had no idea what buckyballs and fullerenes were previous to this. And that's why I'm mentioning it. But it all came about with Shungite because of a lead mine. There was a lead mine, and these miners were going in to work in this lead mine. And when they were coming out, they were drinking from a stream that was close by, and they were never getting ill. And for lead miners, they could only do their work for a certain length of time. And apparently, because they could only do it for a certain length of time, some of them became ill, which is really sad. But none of these miners were becoming ill, and they couldn't understand why. So they tested the water, and they found that the water had got an excess of these buckyballs and fullerenes in them, which is what creates the antioxidants. And these buckyballs and fullerenes, when you drink the water after having shungite in, was killing impurities and metals within the body instantly. And in America, it became really massively sought after, because they found that not only was it producing that energy in the water, it was also negating the electromagnetic frequencies that were coming off phones, off computers and laptops and things like that. So they started making phone cases out of them and all that kind of thing. So putting crystals directly into water, shungite is one of the ones that's okay. Quartz family is okay, but if you start putting malachite or anything containing copper, blue-green crystals, really anything that's got copper in it, then you've got a good chance of poisoning yourself. So it's not worth doing that. You've got to be very careful. So you need to isolate the crystal from the water just to get the energy in. And I believe you can buy water jugs these days that have got like a little inlet where you can put crystals into them to make sure that they don't contaminate the water, that they only exert their energy into the water. And for me personally, what I found after working with quantum scientists actually over in America, which was an incredible experience, because they helped me understand that you have the energy, but the driving of the energy is intention. And without intention, your energy is just going to sit there, basically. It's going to be a watered down version of the potential it could be. So when you're putting your crystal in the water, spend a moment to really be fully present and just recognize why you're doing it. What is your intention behind doing this? I've got an amazing rose quartz cup and saucer that was a gift from a client, and drinking out of that, it's amazing. So putting crystals in your water jug or your gym flask or whatever. But can I just share with you a really funny story? One time, years ago was doing a talk, and I'd taken along 2 glass jugs of water, because ideally you need glass, not plastic, when you're doing your water with the essence in. And I'd got some small clear quartz crystals, and I put the clear quartz crystals into one jug and left the other one without. So they'd both got tap water in. And I said, I'd like you to just test and see. Now, one lady in the group had gone to the toilet, and everybody else lines up at the table and they're just drinking this. So everyone's, oh my goodness, yes, you can really taste the difference. You can literally taste it. And one of the exercises we offer is to use amethyst, rose quartz, and clear quartz in separate glasses and just see if you can taste the difference of the energy. And you literally can. It's really quite extraordinary. Excuse me. Anyway, this lady who'd gone to the toilet came back at the end of the exercise, went to the table, poured herself a glass of water and drank it, and remarked at how hard the ice cubes were. So I realized that she drunk me crystal. So I said, there's no ice in the water. That was the crystal. That's what I was explaining. She said, oh, I'm so sorry. I was on the toilet when you was explaining it. And of course, I got a phone call the next day saying, I've got your crystal back. I'm like, no, you can keep the crystal. It's absolutely fine.
Oh my God. So Jackie, that's amazing. What's your thoughts on organite crystal? Because I know organite can help with radiation and things like that.
Yeah, I have an organite. I tend to use, I know this sounds crazy, but I like to work with with obsidian to absorb the electromagnetic frequencies. The reason being, I did an experiment years ago. I had a big chunk of obsidian, and when you put it down, have you seen mahogany obsidian? Mahogany obsidian is when the radiation has gone through the obsidian and turned the black into like a mahogany color. So the experiment that I was doing was to put a big chunk of obsidian next to a television screen and just leave it there for a couple of weeks to see if the obsidian changed color. And sure enough, you could see lines running through the obsidian lines of mahogany where the electromagnetic frequencies had been purified in the obsidian. I'm one of these people that don't like to dust unless I can actually see the dust. So I know that actually I'm doing some good. I need to dust. And it's the same with the obsidian. You can see the radiation going through it. Now, the organite, I have got organite, it's downstairs underneath my television. And yeah, again, I do find that the energy coming, because I have a whole wall. You can buy those quartz briquettes now, can't you? And we've had a whole wall done in the living room in them quartz briquettes. And yeah, you can feel a difference if you go into somebody else's room as opposed to the room that's got the quartz, the organite and everything in there. And it's sensitivity to energy as well, isn't it? Because I'm sure that both Chris and Steve, both of you are really sensitive to energy now. And so when you go in a room where maybe somebody's had a laptop on and a radio station on and something else, you can feel, and it feels horrible. It's like, let me get out of here. So the sensitivity to radiation in the atmosphere, really, I can't spend a lot of time in a city these days. Living by the sea, I love it. I go to the sea every day because the negative ions there are really, really good, and you feel really good when you come back. You're not carrying those electromagnetic frequencies. So yeah, organites are really good. There are other alternatives. The Masonite is said to do the same thing. Obsidian's supposed to do a similar kind of thing. Organites, for me, they look amazing. And when you put them there, the frequency from them, it just tempers everything, which is wonderful. A friend of mine is a feng shui expert, and she has one of those EMF readers. It's an electromagnetic, it's a little black box. It has a needle that goes across, and it tells you how strong the electromagnetic frequencies are in the room or near where you are. Because we lived near a pylon before we moved to Spain. We ended up living in the mountains in Spain, but that's another story. Talking to a Neolithic rock at the top of the mountain was the highlight of everything that's ever happened to me. But anyway, so coming back to the pylon and the electromagnetic frequencies, you can buy the readers, and you can actually physically monitor whether or not the organite and the crystals are doing anything, which is great stuff, isn't it? Because we can't see energy, we have to rely on our senses. So now we're getting where there is equipment that is monitoring the vibrations that are coming and helping us to actually record it. Is it accurate? I don't know whether that machine's recording electromagnetic frequencies. A scientist has told me, if I'm being my authentic truth, can I feel it? Yeah. And that's all that matters to me. But a lot of us live in the science world. And when writing the course, I remember thinking, because I got asked in my career to go and do some talks for the NHS. I was working with terminally ill AIDS patients at the time, and they asked me to go and do some research with them. And I went along to the hospital, and there was a group of consultants that had come down from London. And there was a Reiki person there. There was somebody doing aromatherapy, somebody doing something else. There was about 6 of us, all offering terminally ill patients with AIDS, our holistic therapy to see if it was going to be monitored and help them in any way. And the guy that went in before me was a Reiki guy, and the consultants were sat at a table almost like a judge and jury out of Strictly Come Dancing or something. You're thinking, oh, Jesus, here we go. So the guy goes in who was doing Reiki, and the consultant said, so what is it actually you do? And he said, I exorcise demons from them. And I remember sitting thinking, oh, God. And the consultants were like tapping the pencils on the table, looking at each other. And I thought, he's right in what he's saying, but he's using the wrong language to speak to them. And if I can find the correct language to be able to speak to these people, then I can bring crystal healing into mainstream. So when I went in and they said, oh, right, yes, so you do crystals then, do you? And I said, yeah. I said, are you wearing a watch? And they went, sorry. And I was like, are you wearing a watch? And yeah, so there's a crystal in there. Did you know? I said, it's quartz, and it's keeping the most accurate time in the world because of its vibration, and it's interacting with your neurological system. And that's why it lasts such a long time. And when you put crystals on people, if you put them on acupressure points, it interacts with the nervous system, and it sends electrical impulses, and that breaks down the synapses that are being sent from the brain and changes the way you feel and think. I was invited back. We never saw Melvin again. And it's exactly the same as what he was saying, but just presented in a scientific manner, because some people are scientifically minded, and that's not wrong. And some people are emotionally, I mean, what he was saying was correct. We all have thought patterns that are creating disharmony within our body. Our inner voice can sometimes be quite cruel to ourselves. And, we have subliminal little messages being sent to ourselves, which can be quite detrimental. I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, and da, 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 da. And if these areas of our body through the neurological system and circuit break those messages that are being sent from the brain to the body, then amazing. And one of the guys was a neurological surgeon, and I said to him, I said, I don't mean to be rude, I said, but I said the NHS and the medicine at the moment, if we damage our nervous system, it's pretty difficult to repair, isn't it? And he said, well, yeah. I said, it is a work in progress. We are always progressing. I said, yeah, but I said, if you think that these crystals are emitting light directly into the nervous system, I said, this opens a door that maybe the crystals can actually heal the nervous system. And he sort of sat there and said, well, potentially, yeah. So we did explore it for a little while. But it just, for me, helps us recognize that we're at the start of what could be astronomical in the future. Energy medicine, I look at the way when I found out I'd got a rather large tumor in my abdomen. It was a fibroid, and they wanted to cut it out and take out X, Y, and Z organs with it. And I chose the natural path and decided to keep everything that they wanted to remove and work with herbs and crystals and the natural way of healing. And I remember thinking on my, journey that, in 100 or 200 years time, or maybe not even that long, we'll look back on this time scale and say the way they dealt with illness, like cutting the body open and yanking out organs and sewing us back together, was barbaric. It's like, there has to be a gentler kind of way of dealing with the body and understanding that the way we think affects the way we feel. And the way we feel is a nervous system that's running through the body, causing all this tension or non tension and creating dis-ease. And the way to rectify that is to find a way of becoming at ease. And then we're not dis-eased. And for me, crystals was a major part of my recovery and ability to reduce this fibroid, find my authentic self, become more happy with the world and not be discontent with the bloody politicians, the media, society, COVID, all that kind of thing, and recognize that it's so important to hold your space, which is what Stephen was talking about before. And like you said, Chris, stay in your lane. The only person that's important to me is me, and to be kind to everybody else, and to recognize that the only person that's important to you is you, and you're just as worthy as I am, and I'm just as worthy as you are. And then you live in a world that's healing and kind and loving, and your body naturally looks after itself. So yeah, rant over. Sorry.
No, it wasn't a rant. It was very, very, very interesting, and I think at the core of it, there, something that I believe that through some of the experiences that we've all been through the last since 2020, that in some ways science has been barred with all being bad in a way. No other way I can put it, or not usable. But I actually think science has its place. Good science, authentic science, has its place in balance with energy work as well. And it just shows with the way you've explained that. And I know myself and Stephen feel very much the same in sort of communication from spirit over the years, that they were said, it isn't the way. It is quite barbaric to be cutting into the bodies. And I really feel the same as you, Jackie, that we're evolving or remembering, bringing back a lot of this knowledge, that we'll look back in these times of going, oh my God, can you believe we did that? Can you believe that happened? But it's great times in that way we're moving into. But what I wanted to come back a little is when you mentioned about vibrations from and how they can sort of imbalance us, disturb us. And what I came to first of all is the place where we actually rest at night, where we rest our bodies and sleep. that to me, that's a very sacred space of what we put in. I don't have a TV in my bedroom, for example. I haven't had one for many, many years. I'm very careful with things like that. But in terms of crystals, what crystals would you advise that are good and actually will have a positive impact on our resting space?
Okay, so I love this question because I traveled an awful lot. And so I like to value and I like to create a sacred space. So when I'm going to, when I lived in the mountains in Mahaka and I used to commute backwards and forwards to do the monthly sessions that I did here. And so I'd stay in quite a lot of hotel rooms and I never knew what energy had been in there. And I didn't know. And like you just said, in a hotel room, there's a television on the wall and what have you. So I'd make grids around my bed. And I used to have 5 crystals that I used to create a temple to sleep in. And the temple is, you make 4 squares. So I used 4 clear quartz small points, all facing inwards, one at each side of the bed and one at the head of the bed. And we do, again, this is an exercise in one of the classes because it's really quite profound, the difference in the quality of the sleep and also how you feel when you wake up in the next morning, how refreshed you feel. So it's 4 crystals, one at each corner of your bed, all facing inward. So you've got a square around your bed and then 1 crystal underneath. Now, a lot of people's beds come right down to the floor, so you can pop them under the mattress. You don't have to put them underneath your bed. So if you put them underneath your mattress, if you can't get underneath your bed, and then 1 crystal directly, if you can, flat in the center under your bed. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 in the middle, 5. And the way I activate that crystal grid into a temple, which is eventually going to be an octahedron, is I would connect the square, starting anywhere you like, as long as you finish at the same place you start at. So activate the light. And I do through intention and visualization. I invite the light from the first crystal to join the light to the second, to the third, to the fourth, and then back to the first. And I do this a good few times to make sure that that light is really seen in my inner eye and really well established in the etheric energy field. So when I've got that square, I then invite the 4 consciousness of the crystal to send that energy to the crystal that's in the center of the square. When then I've met with the center crystal, I again imagine that and invite the light of that crystal to raise the energy. So I imagine it like, if you were raising a tent and it's a tent pole and it's pushing the energy up out above me. And I usually take it right the way out to either the Sirius realm of stars or wherever you want to, actually, that doesn't really matter. You can go to wherever you want, but I go to Sirius or the Pleiades or wherever I feel I want to go to, but just taking it out to the brightest light in the cosmos and then bringing that light down back to meet with the crystal and taking it deep down into the center of Mother Earth. In actual fact, you created an octahedron, you created a pyramid around your bed. So your bed's in the middle and you've created a shape like this above you and a shape like that going down into the earth. And that I started creating that years and years and years ago. And I've used that as a sacred temple around my bed and around space when I do healing for years and years and years. And it's only more recently that I've found that that is actually a shamanic practice that was used by the Native American Indians, and that they would do that to shield energetically their space. And of course, you've got the energy of the pyramid. And if you know anything, I'm sure I'm selling sand to the Arabs here, telling you about the pyramids, but the energy is a spiral in the center and it's purifying. The energy of the pyramids is purifying all the time and it's sending that energy out into the cosmos and it's keeping you nice and aligned. Now then, if you sleep in that space, you will find you'll sleep like a baby. And when they say sleep like a baby, you've no subconscious overactivity going on. Now, we know the subconscious has got a job to do. It's cleaning what's happened to you. It's trying to digest what you've interacted with during the day, but the pyramid does it for you. The pyramid clears your subconscious so that you're left with a nice clean subconscious mind. Then your conscious mind can really deeply relax. Your body then drops down, your nervous system really relaxes deep down, and your body has the correct conditions to heal itself during sleep. The next morning when you get up, oh my goodness, it really is, you feel awake, alive, and full of life. And that's the key, because during the night, you've been interacting with that movement of the pyramid energy that's been fueling. I don't know whether you know what the Antakarana is, but basically fueling the Antakarana, that's the energetic spine inside your spinal column, which is linked to your Kundalini energy, all that kind of thing. And it's been revitalizing it and re-energizing it and helping you the next morning feel absolutely full of life. So I always take the temple down in the morning, because I've actually walked into a room, the more sensitive you become, and I can feel, oh, I've not taken that blooming temple down, and then I take it down, I can feel it still live in the energy field around me. Now I use the temple, and I've placed that grid around. I have a granddaughter who's 18 now, but when she was a little girl, she never slept. She was a piggy nightmare. Leanne would bring her around and she'd say, "Can you look after Jasmine for me?" I'm like, "Oh, here we go." And I'd put a temple around her and she would sleep so well. And she says to me, "How does she sleep so well at you?" I said, "I might use the temple." "Oh, yeah, I will do." So putting that grid, energetic grid around your bed with 5 clear quartz points is a great way of ensuring that you get that really deep sleep, or just literally putting some sodalite around your bed, putting a crystal under your pillow. But for me, what works the best is the temple. Do you guys have some sort of regime when you're trying to create that safe space? And taking them 5 little crystals in a pouch with you when you go on holiday, just make sure. I mean, if somebody's had a bad night and they're ill and they've slept in the bed that you're in, do you really want to sleep in that energy? I think not. So yeah, the grid goes round. I'm like, purify it before I get in it and make sure that it's all right. And when we went to Spain not long ago, they were going on about bed bugs. I'm like, right, okay. So I'm armed with my tea tree oil and goodness knows what else, and my pyramids up. So yeah. My husband's like, "You're a bit OTT," and I'm like, "Yeah, well, it's a good job you've got me."
I love it. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I've done over the years, which was get rid of my mobile phone, anything electronic in my bedroom. I have wooden floorboards. I try to use sort of in the feng shui, the colors that I'm using in my rooms, the pictures. On the crystals, my go-to between is the Himalayan salt lamp. I love the Himalayan salt lamp next to my bed. And I always have rose quartz crystal and clear quartz as well, and next to my bed. And that's something that because I have very, very vivid dreams. And sometimes I say to spirit as well, right, I take the crystals out of my room as well, because I don't want to overuse them, where I just want to just shut down completely, because where I'm very active spiritually, where I feel like I want to wake up in the morning. But I will try. I'm going to be doing that tonight in the 4-point or the 5-pointed crystals, and I'm going to do that tonight. And I'm going to say to my partner, because my partner he's very stressed, and I won't tell him, and he'll say, "Oh my God, I feel amazing," and I won't tell him. But I want to ask you, Jackie, we're coming shortly to the end of the podcast, which has been amazing. You could talk for hours on crystals. Is a lot of people are stressed at the moment. So what kind of crystals do you feel could help people with stress?
Okay, so stress is a word that's given to so many different things. So first of all, really identifying what is triggering your stress is really, really important. A general rule would be, maybe to just hold some clear quartz points, or, would be clear quartz, as we all know, are like, a neutral energy that will find. They've got the full color spectrum in there. And if you've got them in your hands are going directly into your heart energy, and that should calm everything really down. I like working with chrysocolla. I recommend chrysocolla a lot. It gives that c'est la vie energy, that couldn't care less kind of energy. And it's usually because of the overexcitement of what's happening. Amethyst is very good because it's a detoxer. Howlite is another one of my favorite ones because it's just so calming and soothing. Fluorite, if it's because you're resisting life and it's like, I don't really want to be doing this, but I've got to do it, and just to help you go with it, to just
I
relax.
love that. I love that crystal. That's one of my favorite crystals, fluorite. I love it.
It is incredible. There's just so many, Stevens, because when you're dealing with your stress, I think it's your body's way of saying, listen, you got to listen. So it's like, if your stress is because you're going too fast, well then listen, life's going too fast. I know a lady said to me the other day, oh, I did really well. I got up and I went to work. I said, oh, that was what your body was telling you to do, was it? And she said, oh no, my body wanted to stay in bed. Well, why did you not stay in bed?
Yeah.
We override the body all the time, don't we? We override. What do you think of kyanite? What do you think of kyanite? It's one of my crystals as well. Yeah.
Do you do aura combing with kyanite?
Yeah.
So you get your kyanite stick and you just comb through your aura, and it feels like you're having an energetic shower. In fact, I have some nurses that used to be on the course, and they take a comb of kyanite into work with them because, as you can imagine, they're working with poorly people all the time, and that must get in their energy field. So I'm like, just take a break, nip to the toilet, comb your aura with your kyanite, because kyanite is just all purifying, isn't it? And just earth that energy, and they're like, oh, it just feels like it takes all that static out of your energy. Love kyanite.
That one you mentioned that.
Sorry,
that I just wanted to get in because I know you mentioned chrysocolla a few times. That's one of my go-tos. I find that I carry that in my pocket a lot because I can be sort of prone to getting stressed. It's something I've worked on over the years, and I found that really effective. That one, I carry it in my pocket. One pocket will have that chrysocolla in it. The other pocket, rose quartz. And I find it assists greatly. I found that's a really good recommendation personally for me. Yeah. Sorry, Stephen. Go ahead.
No, in the bathroom as well. When I have a shower, I sometimes use my crystals. A rough rose quartz. I like using aquamarine as well. I find that really well, and I just brush my body, scrape my body when I exfoliate. Particularly, I find I like working with salts and crystals after I've done some heavy healing work, because it can really just and also helps prepare me when I do healing work as well, my pre-preparations as well. So just you can go on and on about the crystals. It's amazing.
Also, as well, Jackie, there's I'm sure we've all experienced this, and even listeners as well, that I've had experiences where I may have by accident left a crystal in my bedroom or by the side of my bed. And I've noticed I've had like, really heavy dreams, God, all sorts. And I'm like, I need to move that crystal, doesn't belong in here. Or maybe it happened for a reason, but it can't stay in here.
Totally. The latest crystal I'll just share with you really quickly before I know we're coming to an end is this is alienite, and it's a type of euphorylite which has come from America, and Gary Rowley is the guy that has got this mine over in South Dakota, and he sent it over for me to work with, and it's quite heavy metal. So it's quite grounding and what have you. But just like Stephen was saying before, it unlocks things within you. And now, because there's a massive debate on whether or not, because the Native American Indians that live in South Dakota are saying you shouldn't send the mountain out, the mountain's sacred. You should keep what's in the mountain there. It's just meant for the mountain. And for years and years, we've revered this. And even me as a shaman, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I don't want to disturb the mountain and what have you. But I held this, and it said, again, no words, but just knowings. What if the mountain wants to speak to people? What if this is the way of getting the message from the mountain out there? And it just opens those restricted belief systems that we've, revered as being, oh yeah, no, the Lakota are right, this is the sacred mountain, and she shouldn't be disturbed. And then the mountains come here all the way to the UK, and holding them, they think not on my wavelength at all, comes, well, what if the mountain has got a message and it wants to help society, and that it's coming over here to bring that frequency over here to help us to understand. And yeah, it just blows your mind because it's not on your spectrum. When a thought pattern like that comes in, it's come from the crystal.
And I think, as well, Jackie, what I think as well, that there's a lot of crystals that have not yet been discovered. But what I think is that the earth has not allowed us to access those crystals yet because humanity's not ready. There's a lot of new crystals coming out, you're seeing surfacing, and that's exciting for humanity. But I think, it's time with the knowledge and the teachings are going to be shared. And like you said, the mountain, there's probably thousands of crystals that haven't yet been discovered and will be discovered for the next thousands and thousands of years. But we're in the beginning stages of revelation and transformation, purging, co-creating, and the crystals will change. There'll be crystals we're working with now that people won't work with in maybe in 100 years because it's what's not resonating or what is resonating with humanity on a conscious level as well, when we're talking about grids and ley lines and as a planetary sort of way, I think as well. And the earth knows this because the crystals are very much of the earth, and she's going to allow certain crystals to be discovered when the time is right. I feel, I don't know if that's right or wrong, that's just my opinion.
No, I love that, and I resonate with it. And that, that thought pattern that came from Alienite really made me go, oh my God, yeah. What if the man, it took me past what I thought was my heart. And it wasn't, it was my head. My head was running a belief that the sacred Lakota had said, and on some level it was resonating with my heart until the crystals said, well, what if it's meant to be out here? Because like you said, and I totally get that, Stephen, I've been working with crystals for 40 years, and going to the wholesalers, there was a new to me, it's not new, it's millions of years old. Sintamani is a new to me crystal that's come into my awareness. And when I held it, oh my goodness me, I can really feel the light flooding into my energy field. And I'm then excited to know what the knowings are going to be that are coming from it, because I can feel the energy coming in like I could with malachite, that it's like you said, Stephen, it's a key and it's opening something within me. And it's like being a child in a sweet shop going, oh, that's coming from this then. This is amazing. And the excitement from it and the euphoria that you get from these amazing frequencies that are coming from the earth, which is a consciousness in itself. And she's helping us evolve. Yeah, just amazing, isn't it?
We did. Yeah, we did an experiment, and Chris remembers this as well. In Circle, we ran Circle for yes, you got a better memory than me. And what we did with crystals, because you have this as well, Jackie, don't you? You have people that will say, oh no, this is what this crystal is all about. No, you can't say that. So you've got the toxic side of crystal healing. Or what we did, which was really interesting, which was put a cat amongst the pigeons, is put crystals in white envelopes and just allow people to sit in meditation, and where people's perceptions, all black obsidian, all, and actually they said, oh, it feels really nice. And so it's people's perception is, don't put your crystals in boxes and label them. They're an energetic force. They're different keys. And again, it's that mind. And that really taught a lot of people in their class about, don't just expect that crystal just to the way you perceive it to be. And it really took away the mind and allowed you to really connect with what the heart and what it really felt like. It was amazing, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah, really incredible. And I think it just what, our perception can equal our reality. And I feel that's a great experiment for anybody to do. Perhaps you're listening to this and you've never been, or you'd like to go to a crystal shop or stall or wherever. There's some wonderful wholesalers for people who, starting shops. There is to actually not look at the labels, but to be guided by the energy and what's calling to you. But um, I could actually speak to you, Jackie, for hours and hours. I really could. This conversation, it's so interesting. But what I feel is a good place just to really round everything up, because we've talked on different aspects of connecting with the earth, connecting with ourselves, our environment. And I'd like to hear your recommendations actually for crystals to connect not only with our higher self, but higher vibrational energies, such as many may call them angels, or our guides, our ancestors, our cosmic friends as well, our galactic friends.
Seriously. Well, where do I start? So I love traveling the cosmos. I use a lot of tektites. I love connecting to tektites and driving my awareness to the various star systems, and even through portals of black holes in the universe where they take me to as well. So yeah, I've done a lot of exploring in the cosmos, and the crystal, obviously Moldavite is one of the best ones to get you out there into the cosmos if you're just starting off. The Sintamani stone is an amazing one. Nantan is a great stone to get you out there, and really open your mind energy, which is where I think the human race is restricted because of that mind energy, and transcend that mind energy. The angelic frequencies, I very first started as an angel practitioner before I got into crystals, into teaching crystals. And the angelics as well, there are different hierarchy with the angels. You've got the principalities looking after the countries, you've got your archangels looking after the human aspect, you've got all different kinds of crystals there. And I like celestite or selenite to work with the angels, just easy ones,
Yes.
easily accessible.
Love
And
selenite.
it's amazing, isn't it? And if you have, apparently, if you have a selenite tower next to your bed, you're inviting the angelic consciousness into your field during sleep state. So celestite, the blue one, and the white selenite are both amazing crystals to have you resonate with the angels. The angels, in my opinion, because I see consciousness as emanating around the earth, and the angelics have never, from this is my opinion, and you may think differently, but the angelics, the name ends in EL, which means of God, except for Sandalphon and Metatron. Everybody else has got, even Michael is EL at the end, and Raphael, and all of the angels always end in the name letters EL because they're of God. They've never been in human form. So you're guaranteed of getting a pure, authentic response when you're connecting to the angels, because they've not got the overcoat of the human experience there. So, and they're quite close to the earth. So that's why, in my opinion, do I see them as winged beings? No, I don't. But some people have, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I see it as consciousness, pure consciousness, and different vibrations. I see my mind as a radio station that can tune into different channels, and that when I tune into the angelic channel, it's very pure and very beautiful. The cosmic channel is the one that we've spoken about. The earth, if you're going to connect to the fairies and the divas, they're a little bit more choosy who they speak to, which is, I love that, cheeky little chappies. So I like to work with petrified wood, more earthy kind of crystals. Petrified wood is, for me, one of the better ones to really get quite earthy and to talk to the fairies and the divas and what have you. And they're choosy. They're choosy. I can remember doing a meditation, and it's almost like they were looking at me going, well, is she heart-centered? Is she not heart-centered? Because you won't have anything to do with people that are not heart-centered, which I think is amazing. that's been my experience anyway. So to heighten your intuition, and there are various, I'm going to call them realms or dimensions for you to experience working with the earth energy and the salamanders, the undines, through the water spirits, the all the different spirits that are available on the earth. You want more earthy vibrations, so you want something that is your jaspers, your agates, all those kind of things that are quite earthy. And then when you start to move, you want to be looking in your ites, ite, selenite, celestite, damburite. All of those kind of will heighten your perception and expand your awareness a little bit more. Because I tend to be out there a lot, I know that I need to ground myself quite a lot and really bring my awareness down into the earth plane. And so I do work with the fairies and the elves and tree spirits, and I talk to the wind. In fact, the wind just recently has asked me to sing more, which is not good for people that are near me, but I do understand why. Sing into the wind, and through intention, imagine that beautiful sound. Well, it's not actually that beautiful, but the intention behind the sound is it's beautiful, and that it goes out, and then the birds pick up that sound and they emphasize it. And so in the collective atmosphere, you're resonating that vibration around the earth. And yeah, we learn so much from the tree spirits, the air spirits, the fire spirits. This, it's such a vast subject that is so interesting. And after 40 years, I'm still learning and still growing and still excited by it.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful way you put everything. For me, it's very authentic to what myself and Stephen have come to know as well. In you speaking our language, that definitely, for sure. And I feel that's it's just been such a wonderful episode. I feel this of so much knowledge there that's been shared and experience, and I really thank you for sharing that as well, Jackie. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Now, do you know you have a podcast also? And if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to learn about some of your offerings or connect with you, where can they do that?
Okay, so we have a website, www.britishacademyofcrystalhealing.com. The podcast is available on all major podcast sites. It's the Crystal Light Workers podcast. And we also have classes and things if you're interested in anything crystalline, or if you want to do retreats or anything like that, just come and visit us on the website. Have a look at what we've got on offer. If it's for you, great. If not, then it might be at some point. And if you want to get in touch with me, it's info@British Academy of Crystal Healing, and there's a contact form on the website, so you can just use a contact form. But yeah, I'm so grateful that you've invited me. I've loved this morning. I'm full of light, full of joy.
Yeah.
You just, totally helped me reach that vibration. So thank you. And thank you for the good work that you guys are doing.
Oh, thank you so much. And it's been, the word I'd like to, it's been really nourishing. I'm feeling that feeling on a high, and I'm actually looking forward to sort of listening back to what we discussed as well, because we've reached so many areas. And importantly as well, I hope everybody who's listening or watching has enjoyed it. If you've not found certain parts nourishing that you perhaps seeking, or all of it in fact, and feel free in the comments section to give your thoughts, share. As Jackie said there at the beginning, I'm a believer in there aren't really masters on this level on the earth. We're all exchanging. We're exchanging our knowledge, our wisdom that we all hold within. So please feel free to do that. Join the collective awakening for sure. And please continue to support this podcast and subscribe and give us a like wherever you're listening or watching us. And we will post all the links down below in the comment section to connect with Jackie as well. Jackie, I just want to thank you once again for everything you shared and giving your time to us. It's been an absolute pleasure. As we record, it's the daytime and the sun is shining, so it's a wonderful way to start our day off. Really got off to a wonderful start as we go into the afternoon. So we want to wish everybody lots of love until we speak again, and join us for our next episode.
Thank you.